So the last couple of years, I have figured out how important it is to curate the type of media and influences that I let into my life. I have read a lot of books, watched a lot of YouTube videos, listened to a lot of podcasts, and switched up what kind of music that I listen to. And I've discovered that certain things definitely distract me or kind of bring down my mood or put some contention into my life, and other things just lift me up or point me to better thoughts, better feelings, and educating me and enlighten me. The last couple of weeks, whether it's been in Sunday school or some of the podcasts that I listen to or some of the things that I read, a lot of things seem to be comparing light and darkness. And I remember in a Sunday school lesson a couple weeks ago, somebody talked about his daughter and how she was scared of the dark. And so he went and laid with her in bed, and she was scared. And he said, "Wait for it." And she's like, "What?" He's like, "Just wait." And as his eyes started to adjust, he started to ask her, "Now what do you see?" And at first it was like, "Well, I still see nothing. It's dark." And he's like, "Well, keep looking." And she's like, "Oh, I can see more. Oh, there's light." And he pointed out, that our eyes, most of the time we think about our eyes adjusting to the darkness. But really, the important thing is that our eyes adjust to the light, to the leftover light. And he explained to his daughter that there's always still light there, that sometimes we just have to focus on the light. And I started thinking about my kids, and I was like, how can I teach my kids this principle that there's always light there? God is always trying to be with us, and we can always have access to the light of Christ, but we have to make sure that we're focused on it and we're not focused on the darkness. And I thought of a different kind of scenario. I want you to imagine you're in a room that has a lot of windows in it, and those windows are letting in light. And then I want you to think about some of the choices we make and some of the media that we consume. And for a long time, I listened to political talk radio, and my brain was so focused on that, during that time. I mean, I'd spend hours in the car sometimes, and I'd listen to it. And so it was like putting a poster over one of the windows of the, politics of the time. And then, I like lots of different genres of music, whether it be, country or pop or rap or alternative rock. I really like rock. So I listen to that. Well, take a poster and put that over one of the windows, because if I'm listening to that music, I'm not listening to some Christian music or something that might be uplifting. I like to read. Now I can read, I can read lots of scriptures. I can read lots of self-help books. I can read, lots of books from pastors talking about scriptural stuff. Or I can read, fantasy and fiction and crime novels and things like that. Well, depending on what you're reading, you may put another poster of, your favorite fantasy author or something over one of the windows. Each one of these things that we're taking in, we're making choices as to how much time we spend on it and how it affects us. And so with each one that we put up in front of something that might bring in light, we're blocking some of the light. And the room, though the light is still there and available to us, starts to get darker with each covering over the windows that we place. And I have thought about this in my life, and I'm wanting to teach my kids, how do we make sure that we keep the light? And the way we do that is we make sure that the things that we are letting in, or the things that we have in our life, aren't blocking out the other opportunities that are good. I've heard it talked about, you have good, better, and best choices. You may have a good choice, but that doesn't mean it's the best choice. And sometimes I think when we're talking about our media and things that we consume, we want to make sure that we're keeping things that are bringing in the light. And I think things like music and the things that we listen to have a really big impact in our day, and over time can really kind of direct what kind of mood that we have and what kind of life and feeling that we're kind of living through. I think it's important that we make sure to take time to read and study the scriptures, to listen to good talks, speeches and things that we can learn from, hear people's experiences, because we learn a lot from people's experiences. that we take time to listen to good music, things that will lift us up. I know people who, they curate certain playlists for whether they're working in the gym, whether they're heading to church, whether they're going to work. Depending on the task that they're going to be doing that day, they have a different playlist because the music inspires them and moves them in a certain way for that task. Well, we can do the same thing with making sure that we keep, a bright spiritual kind of vibe through our day by listening to things that point us to God, things that teach us and point us to Christ, as opposed to letting things in of the world that might be talking about worldly things, whether it be drugs or money or any of these other things that distract us from Christ. And so curate your playlists, curate your books, things like that. Some of these things, I'm not saying to avoid certain musics and books and things all the time. I'm saying make sure that you're leaving enough room for the light to come through. And all of that stuff has a big impact on our spirits and on our mindset. And so as we carefully curate and pick out which things that we have in our lives, we're going to start seeing a change in both our attitude and in our mindset. And we may just see a little bit more light in our life. It'll help us with gratitude and seeing all the ways that God is playing a part.